Oh dear. Well, he never learned that in Leicester. Pronounced Calvary for American listeners. Link below. So, Milo has been revealed as a paedophile, or someone who covers up for paedophiles, or something like that. And whatever, the binary algorithm is in full swing. Either you have to defend him and be tainted by the accusation that you too are a paedophile, or are in some way sympathetic towards them and will in all likelihood be swept up in the hashtag Pizzagate roundups underway. Or you are a real man / woman with a soul and the sword of righteousness of the right. The obvious place to start is with the issue of consent. I cannot consent to sell you a television set that I have stolen, and you cannot consent to buy it because I do not have the legal right to sell it, and therefore you cannot have the legal right to buy it. We can get into a whole load of caveats at this point, like it was my mother's television set and she asked me to sell it for her, or you were acting in good faith not knowing that it was stolen, etc., etc. But the general point is you cannot consent to something unless it is legal. Therefore, for Milo to get dragged into the endlessly pointless argument of whether or not someone below the age of consent can consent is just silly. The person may agree. They may be enthusiastic participants. They may be on the top or the bottom, or jumping off the wardrobe in a Batman outfit. The one thing they are not is a consenting sexual partner. And again, there are caveats. For instance, if both parties are below the legal age of consent, but this does not stop it from being a crime, it simply makes for mitigating circumstances. One of the dafter defences of Milo that I have seen is the claim that he is the victim in all this and he should be treated as such. I would have more sympathy for this position, was it not so fucking ludicrous. If he has been a victim of anything, it is for getting the reason for Polari, link below, and forgetting that gay culture is rather different to the world around. Therefore, when he gets up and does his camp drag act and trolls out the jokes about lesbians and cross-dressers and fat people and all the rest of it, his conservative audience reacts to it exactly as millions of families in the 1960s did to Round the Horn, link below. The fact that because the butt of his jokes have long since become fully paid up members of the Viewers and Listeners Association, link below, only makes his act once again political. Yes, you can paint all this as Milo the victim and pull out your pocket copy of Freud for Dummies and claim that his assertions are the expression of a fractured psyche, but I would suggest you could do much the same for just about every paedophile, since child abuse is generational, link below. Now, I'm not saying there is a connection between being gay and being abused pre the age of consent, but I am saying that if you read gay literature, it is a theme. I linked above to the film Prick Up Your Ears, and Joe Orton claimed that he was turned that way, Mrs., by an encounter in the toilets of the local Odeon. Or you can look at A Boy's Own Story by Edmund White, link below, a story that could also be a template for Milo's adolescent years, certainly with regard to the picture of the episode he paints of his liaison with Father Michael. Or if you're feeling really daring, go and read some of the stories on Fiction Mania, link below. Of course, none of this is allowed to be said, and saying it only goes to prove that A, you are a homophobe, or B, you are a child molester. Such is the binary nature of the political algorithm. Which brings us to this business of the party on Joe Rogan's podcast, link below. I am not sure which came first, Joe Rogan or the drunken peasants, but whichever, we now know Milo's definition of paedophilia, which can loosely be described as if you have bum fluff and working balls, then you are not a child and fair game if you're willing for a shilling. I was going to use the old one about if you're old enough to bleed, but in the circumstances. So back to the Hollywood party with its drugs and beautiful people. Milo goes out of his way to emphasise that some of the children were incredibly young, and in his statements following the explosion of this row, he has pointed out that he has in the past outed paedophiles, again emphasising that those involved were abusing very young children. Which makes me wonder what he did, if anything, with regard to the children at this party. And no, I'm not talking about Milo molesting the kids. Rather, I am wondering if he reported this to the police. And if not, why not? And if not, why emphasise the age of the kids on the Joe Rogan podcast? So, on to Mundane Matt, link below, and his defence of Milo. He highlights the role played by the Regan Battalion, link below, and its links to Evan McMullen, link below. Mr. McMullen's involvement is rather interesting, and I would suggest you watch the Bill Maher show again, link below, and keep in mind that Malcolm Nance and Evan McMullen are both spooky. So, when Mr. Nance asks Milo if he is American, it perhaps has a more pointed meaning beyond the earlier insult about his being a dockside prostitute. After all, if your plan is, as Mr. McMullen's appears to be, to return the Republican Party to the unelectable Romney-McCain coalition of Christians, Mormons and nutters, with a big sign on the door saying, "Sod off, sodomites," then what better way to appeal to the knee-jerk American voter? Particularly when Malcolm Nance has a book to sell called The Plot to Hack America, How Putin's Cyber Spies and WikiLeaks Tried to Steal the 2016 Election, link below, and Evan McMullen is also all in on the Russian hacking story, link below. And oh, look at the story the Reagan Battalion is highlighting today, link below. John McCain is again the media's favourite contrarian as he takes on Trump. Did you notice it? The media's favourite contrarian. I thought that was Milo's job. Oh, and by the way, Milo, forget about the book. Leave books to the agency. You have been warned.